Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today.
Okay, we have a series of questions for you. Running a business in Nigeria is not an easy thing, because we know we have a lot of challenges we face here, like lack of constant power supply. So before kickstarting Suya Bistro, what were the challenges that gave you second thoughts? And how were you able to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, like you've rightfully said, Nigeria is a very tough place to run a business. The terrain here is quite challenging. It's very volatile. So I always say, if you're running a business anywhere else in the world, particularly in the western parts of the world, things are tend to run a bit smoother. Here, you're adding an extra layer of complexity because of the lack of resources, the lack of infrastructure, and the extra costs that we have to deal with here. So challenges, of course, will naturally come about. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was finding the right partner at the time. So the idea for Suya Bistro, and I mean partner in terms of a platform to help your business, not even like having a partner as in an individual. So I had the idea for Suya, and it had actually been an idea I had for over a year before the business actually started to develop. But there was no funding for it, right? So it was just an idea in my mind, like, what if there was another way to eat Suya and a different way to, have combined Suya dishes together, right? But I had no funding, no capital. Where are you going to rent a place? How are you going to market it? Where do you even begin? So that problem was solved later on by being able to partner with Spar, the supermarkets chain. And we started off with a profit sharing arrangement, which later turned into more of a rental payment, a month arrangement. But that partnership really was what laid the foundation for us, because without that sort of partnership, the business would have died before it started, because you're looking at exuberant prices, rental rates in Lekki, before you're able to pay your salaries, your overhead costs and all of that, the business was not able to generate that kind of money to be able to cover those kind of costs. So because we were able to find that sort of partner very early on, we were able to focus on the goods that we were providing, our service, our quality and all of that, versus focusing on, making the money to be able to pay our bills. So I think that was the challenge that we had, and that was how we were able to mitigate it with that partner.
Okay, that's really smart. I'd say that's smart. Getting the right partners. And that takes my mind back to the discussion we had on episode 2 with the head supply chain manager of Interswitch, the right partners. Now, that takes me to my next question. Now, you had a partner in SPA, so that's like a business partner with your business. Now, how have you been able to get individuals to partner with your business?
Yeah, so Spar is more like a growth partner, right? Individuals is actually a co-founder for the business who had a similar idea with me, and we were able to establish it together. But then that relationship didn't work in the long run, and I had a different vision from what this partner had, and so we decided to, split ways at that time. And where the business was at that time, we were able to begin generating enough revenue. We were already breaking even and all of that. So I noticed that the trajectory that the business was moving at that time, I didn't necessarily need a partner because of funding, right? The money wasn't an issue because the business was able to generate money for itself to begin growing itself, albeit at a slow pace, but at least we can, expand based on the funds that the business is generating, the profit that the business is generating. So because of those reasons, I wanted a partner that would be adding strategic value rather than adding value because, we need funding or we need to expand or, something like that. I wanted someone that could add strategic value in terms of being able to market the business and take it to the next level. Something that would have taken us maybe another 5 years or so to do ourselves. If we had a well-connected partner who, can add value in terms of marketing, in terms of relationships and other partners and other partnerships with other organizations. So other people came along, with different proposals for partnerships and all of that, but I would often turn them down because there was no strategic value in the partnership, right? They were just adding money, right, to own a percentage of the business, which I wasn't interested in at that time. So Banky W actually came in as a customer. He was a long-time customer of Sooyah Bistro. His office was quite close to one of the branches, so he was a loyal customer for a long time before he even thought about partnering with us. And I think one day it hit him like, wow, I love this so much. I'm giving them all my money. Why can't I turn it into profits, right, for for myself? So that's when the conversation started. Was after he was a customer already, and I saw that, right, that he genuinely loved the food, he loved the brand, and he had an amazing vision of where he wanted to take it. And of course, it's Banky W. He's adding loads of strategic value, right? So yeah, that was that story.
Okay, so basically you don't just choose any partner because they have money.
Right.
You need to have the same vision with you, and you need to bring something that you don't have that they can actually bring in. And that's something for our listeners to learn, because a lot of people get the wrong partners because we need money, and you're getting someone who brings in the money but takes away quality, takes away vision, and at the end of the day you find yourself doing something that you didn't actually plan to do. And
or not even holding their weight in general, right? Because money is one thing, but money will always come, right? If you have a solid business, the money will come eventually. So don't sell the business because of money, right? Because you can sell it because of money and have a partner that has added money but doesn't feel like they need to add anything else, right? They're not adding any other value anywhere else. They're not holding their weight. There's challenges with the business and the partner is not there to help because they feel like they've given money and that was their own, that was their own contribution. So partnerships in that sense as well, it definitely helps to have a partner who is there, mentally, physically, who is there building the groundwork with you, as the founder. So, yeah.
Okay, good one. Okay, I'm going to ask this. For a food business, it's not easy to maintain standard. Now, for your brand, I've tasted your product and it's amazing. Thumbs up for that. Okay, so maintaining the standard and taste of your product is key to any food brand. So no customer actually wants to come in and eat, let's say, your shawarma, and tomorrow it tastes different. So that fluctuation in taste. Okay, so how have you been able to manage that expectation?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, especially when you have multiple locations and you are not always there yourself, right? Because I set these recipes myself. I created each and every recipe for all the menu items that we have. But then I'm basically handing it over to other people and I'm no longer really in the picture on the day-to-day food making thing. So it's definitely difficult to manage. I would say simplicity is key. Right, especially in this terrain where it's that much more difficult to set a standard and people actually follow it. So the simpler you keep things, the simpler it is to manage, right? So our food has, is simple, right? Simple suya, right? Simple bistro items. We try to keep it already very simple that way. Well, that and then also our processes are simple. We have a standard way of making everything, right? It's very hard to mess up. Very, very hard to mess up, right? So any idiot, excuse me for referring to it like that, but any idiot can come in and function, even if you've never held a knife in your life, or if you've never held a frying pan or anything like that, or never held a grill, you can function, So keeping it simple and having standardized processes that are hard to mess up, right?
As CEO of Sooyah Bistro, country director of Next Forward University, and also the founder of Performing Arts School of Nigeria, have you been able to develop the right corporate culture within your organization? That's one. And also having been able to manage your time. You're connected to all these institutions, organizations, so having been able to maintain a very good corporate culture and have been able to manage your time.
So, like you said, these are all three very different organizations. Which corporate culture are you referring to, first of all? So I know which, because they're all very different.
Okay. Now let's start with Suya Bistro.
Okay, Suya Bistro's culture. Okay, Suya Bistro's culture is more relaxed. We're a fast casual restaurant. Suya, we get master's degree, right? So already, we're kind of relaxed and chilled. So the culture is that. We like to interact with our customers. Try to engage them and be funny and, just kind of be lighthearted whenever we're interacting with them. So because of how we interact with our customers, we've also sort of embodied that within the organization as well. So within ourselves, we'll joke and we'll laugh, and we have very different kind of staff. So like the Suya Malams, of course, right? Very, very house staff from the north, make the best Suya, right? We've had to kind of find a way to blend them into our culture as well. So we laugh and joke with those guys. They have a different way of understanding us, vice versa. And then everybody else, the younger, fresh graduates sometimes, and, the others, sort of hustlers that are out there that work with us as well. We have a very young employee base, so everyone is we find kind of like a boiling pot where we've all just a melting pot, excuse me, where we've all just kind of found a way to blend with each other in a very light-hearted, exciting culture. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for Suya Bistro, the culture there is different from Performing Arts School of Nigeria. So let's talk about Performing Arts School of Nigeria.
With Performing Arts School of Nigeria, I'd almost say, and not that Suya Bistro isn't a family, but PAS is definitely more of a family, because we've all come together with one common goal, and that is to improve performing arts in Nigeria, just kind of foster and grow that industry. And two, also we work with a lot of children, so creating memories with children, helping develop their skills and their talents and all of that. So everybody that works at PS has come together with this one common mission. You have to love kids, you have to love performing arts. So because of that, we've really bonded, right? So we're almost like a family. When we work together, we do things together, and the culture has really thrived the business has thrived because of the culture. We're all mission oriented in what we do, and that's allowed us to better deliver on our goals.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question. Before you started this organization, did you sit down to say, this is the way the culture is going to be for Suya Bistro, and this is the way the culture is going to be for PAS? Or when you started employing staffs, you just started developing? Is that the way it was?
Very, very good question.
Or you were intentional?
Yeah, so culture is something to be very intentional about and to always think strongly about, but I'm also a just do kind of person. So no, I never actually sat down and mapped out what I wanted the culture to be like. I think just as the business grew, we naturally found our our sweet spot. And based off of what I observed, what makes our staff happier, what kind of culture and what kind of language and what kind of interactions help us feel more satisfied in the workplace. Based off of those kind of things and those kind of observations, I, try to then guide our culture towards a certain way. But it's not something that, unfortunately, it's not something that I was super intentional about. And I would say to other entrepreneurs out there that culture is one of the most difficult things to fix. And I know this from my studies and my research and schooling and all of that, not, from my own personal experience, but it's very, very, very difficult to change people and change culture. So if you, like you said, it is important to be intentional about it from the very, very early stages, because once you've built a certain culture for 5-10 years, if not more, it's so difficult to change it at that point. So being intentional early on is a very, very, very good idea.
Okay. So I'm going to give you this last question. Brace yourself. You deal with the intake of food, and that's very, very important. It's very, very important to be very intentional also about your vendors. So I'm going to ask this. The kind of business space you play in is a delicate one. because it deals with the intake of substances into the body. Now, in consideration of this fact, what are the factors you take into consideration before choosing your vendors? I mean, the vendors that supply you your raw food materials. So what are the factors you actually take into consideration? Because someone will be out there and say, Sooyah Bistro, I can supply them this. I sell this. Is it possible to connect with them? But now, when you give a good answer to this question, I think business owners out there who actually have an intention to connect with you guys, we have to sit up and like, okay, this is what I need to put in place and stuff. So what are the things you take into consideration before picking your vendors?
Yeah, so good question. So a few things we put into consideration. Of course, completely agree with you. Anything that is dealing with food, you have to be 100 times more careful when you're feeding the public generally. So two things. One, we buy meats every day, fresh, right? And in this part of the world, the only place that you can really find truly fresh meat every day is in the markets, the local markets, right? So we buy a lot of our meats from like Obalende markets, for example, and we've built a relationship with our butcher there that he knows our own meat is special, right? So he's not just doing it anyhow. From the kind of cuts he give us, the sanitary, how the cleanliness of the environment, how he wraps it, how they clean it, and all of that, they do it for us. So that relationship we need to build over time. Now, the other vendor, I would say the most major vendor that we have is Spa. We buy from Spa like every day, not just because of proxy, but because of the kind of quality of the material that they have, the trustworthiness. We know that what they're selling us is of quality, and there's that guarantee. So it's not to say that we wouldn't look at other vendors, but we're very, very particular about the quality that we're bringing on. So one, we want to be sure that we can build a relationship with the vendor over time, so they understand us and understand our standards and our requirements. And two, we need someone that can give us a guarantee that we're always going to, be receiving quality products. And if there's ever an issue, that vendor is there, gives us a guarantee that they will be able to solve it, right? So, yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us.
So I was very, very excited, and I'm so happy to have been, able to participate in this. Thanks for inviting me.